Fit for Life Radio, episode number 75. We have a special guest today. So
Someone that's not us.
All of you that are tired of Gary and Will, we have Amanda Ward with us today.
Hi.
So Amanda is a licensed professional counselor, and she's also a health, nutrition, lifestyle coach.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things. So
That's a lot of hats.
All the things are integrated, really.
Exactly. You know, as business owners, you guys probably know this, but you're taught to niche down and only address one particular population. And I could never do it. It's like, no, this goes. No, this goes. No, they need this. No, we need to. So it all does go together.
Yeah, I used to worry about that. But then you just let people come to you, and it kind of comes itself. So that's how it's been at the gym. For Coastal, we kind of, just have come, and now we've kind of niched down to a lot of 40 and over, so we slowly transitioned our training so that we're using a little bit lower impact exercises and things like that. And ultimately, there was a need for people a little bit older to have an environment that they, want to work towards their goals and train in.
That makes so much sense.
Because the Orange Theories, Burn Boot Camps of the world, they're a lot of 20-somethings, right? And
well, when you're younger and it's like power and motivation, and then you think about the older population, it's like, oh, you need to reintegrate exercise into your life to solve some problems or to last a little bit longer. But that middle population totally doesn't have a spot.
No.
Yeah. Especially, strength training is so weird because they're learning how effective and helpful it is as we age.
Oh my gosh.
But it's always seen as like muscles and look good. So everyone thinks, well, if I'm not in my 20s, what's the point of lifting weights? And I don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever. But the reality is it's very important. But it's also very intimidating.
Yeah.
So if you're in your starting in your 40s or 50s, you're almost like,
what do I do?
Yeah, is this even worth it? And a lot of people have like no idea where to start.
Right.
Like, at all. And that's intimidating for people.
Absolutely.
Speaking of starting, so let's everyone get to know Amanda, just kind of how you started. So I've known you for a while.
Yeah, we knew each other before when?
Before when? I don't even remember when was.
I know.
So, but you went to CNU, right?
I did. I got my undergrad degree in psychology from CNU. Played a little bit of field hockey there.
Ooh, that's a good. So, did you know you wanted to get into fitness then?
Oh, so that's actually where it all started, even though, the ideas don't come into fruition until much later and organically, and the path looks different than you think it will. But yeah, I know. I knew I wanted psychology. I knew I wanted behavioral, mental, brain, humans do this because why? Life.
Yeah, which is interesting because now knowing what I've known doing this for 16 years, that's almost a better major if you want to be in the fitness industry.
Absolutely.
Oh, one of my best friends majored in kinesiology, and she's like, she doesn't do anything.
Yeah. How many times have you ever had to name a muscle to any? I mean, obviously you need to know it, but once you know it, okay, really, it's the psychology of things is what matters the most. Because getting people to change is the hard part.
That is,
Yeah, that's huge. No, I think playing field hockey in college, though, set me up for that next phase of my life as I pursued the human behavior, mental health aspect of things. It's like, wait a minute, either something's missing or how does this work? I just knew I felt better, and then I ended up utilizing personal wellness to actually heal and overcome a lot of my own mental struggles, behavioral struggles. So
that's what makes the best coaches.
Yeah, I think that's anyone who struggled, like you understand other people a little better. You have a little more empathy, and that just makes it so much more.
Oh my
effective.
gosh, yeah, relativity is huge.
And I think that's a big problem with the fitness industry, especially now with Instagram and all that. Is if you are obnoxiously attractive and you just happen to, everything kind of falls in place for you naturally. Yeah. You don't have a drive to learn and figure things out.
Right.
And then but it's, people they're attracted to that and they think, oh, if this person is like this, they must know everything. And then they get put on a pedestal, right? Yeah. Then they maybe are not giving the best information. So whereas when you've had something to overcome or something that kind of, is a deep driver. You are really motivated to learn and figure things out and the principles and then that's everyone I know that has been in this industry for a long time. that's what keeps you driving, is then you want that same aha moment for all your clients.
Well, what is that's it, that description is what people call their why, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, you have to have your why, you have to have your why. And then if we're seeking that from external, right? Oh, I want what they have, or I want to figure that out. It's not going to be as effective as if we went through that experience ourselves from the inside out.
Yeah. So you played field hockey, psychology major.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that?
I went on, there's a little break in there. Actually, my first experience working in a psych ward at a hospital, I lived with my parents for a year between undergrad and grad school. Quickly decided and figured out that is not the part of this life that I want to live. I didn't want to be part of the pathology or the pathologizing so much as I wanted to be a part of the solution and the prevention and the optimizing of what it's like to live a life. So then I got my grad degree. I got a master's in clinical community and school counseling from Regent University. Lived in Virginia Beach for 2.5 years, and went on to kind of pursue the natural, conventional progression of what it's supposed to look like to become a therapist. So a lot of work in behavioral health. I spent almost a decade with at-risk youth, emotional and behavioral issues in school systems and families. And so in that work, which took a lot longer than it should have, because that's kind of how life happens, right? I continued to pursue, heal, and overcome my own struggles, and it became a no-brainer that food and the way I used and honored my body was going to be 100% connected to how I felt, thought, and what came next for me. Mm-hmm. So I started personal training on the side. I would personal train at 5 a.m. and then at 6 p.m. every day, driving to Richmond.
Only options, yeah.
Yeah. And my day job was between, it was always an hour away from my home. So a lot of time on the road, a lot of time in that job, and then I wanted to do this thing. But by connecting with just those few clients, I was able to squeeze in with that part-time work. Your personal trainer's your therapist. Mm-hmm. So my worlds collided so easily. And that's when it just became clearer and clearer to me, like, I don't want to just do this, and I don't want to just do this. It all works together. How do I make that happen? And so that's been the progression of the past 7 years.
It's cool how stuff like that just kind of like falls together, you know, like us, like we didn't plan on doing a group training gym, you know, like we personal trained, and then just, Gary opened this up, and that was a natural progression for us. So
yeah, similar to you. I mean, the driver's always been what do people need,
Yes.
So I've worked at One Life, and then I had little 24-hour gyms, but I would see people join a gym, use it for a week, don't use it again. It just doesn't work. They need the accountability, support. So and then as we did this style of gym, and even then, a big missing piece for a lot of people is nutrition, right? So we really drive that forward, and that's why our gym gets great results. But even now, more and more, which is what we're going to be getting into today, is I mean, and as young trainers, you go through all the X's and O's of exercise programming and different exercises and different training modalities and
the perfect diet.
But then you start to realize all the people that need help, and that, I mean, ultimately do something active. The nutrition, there's foods, right? So it's figuring that out, but we kind of have a good idea on that. But everyone focuses on these things, on what to eat and what to exercise, but the reality is, wrapped around all that, so everyone knows these things, why do people still struggle so much? It's because of their thoughts and environment, really. So those two things are what we're starting to see as the biggest roadblock and obstacles for clients. So, having you, and I had reached out to you before too, because we even get some people who are a little bit outside of our scope, time-wise as well, when you start digging in with some of these reasons. A lot of people start to exercise because they're trying to maybe fix other problems in their life, and they think, well, if I just achieve this body composition or do this certain thing in the gym, everything's going to be great. And the reality is it's not. And then that kind of holds them back.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little about start really people's thoughts, because like we work with a lot of people who, let's just, because it's a general goal, they want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Maybe they've been a little bit bigger their entire life.
Yeah.
And we start to realize that they don't even really believe they can actually lose the weight.
Ding, ding, ding.
So then there's a lot of self-sabotage.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh, that's like the surface level, right? You're like, wow, they come to you to lose weight. That's the surface level. But then you see that and you're like, okay, well, under all of that is the basic understanding of how human beings work, right? So we have thoughts, which at some level become our beliefs, right? And then we have the way that those thoughts and beliefs make us feel, translated to the feelings, the emotions, the motivators or the lack of motivation. That's all in that realm. And then the next level is, well, how does that influence me to act, right? So the bottom line question is, who am I being? What I'm going through on a daily basis? How aware of them am I? That's the huge piece, is do I even know what I'm doing? We all have a schema or a paradigm, right? Like it's this automatic way of being. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? What time do you brush your teeth? Like where do you go for lunch every day? How do you turn when you pull out of your driveway? Those are all automatic beliefs. And when we understand that that's the basic component for how humans function, then we can apply that to almost everything that's going on in our lives and go, wait a minute, well, I'm showing up this way here. What is the belief underneath all of that? And I always say that your experiences and your teachers give you one thing. They give you learned belief. And our job is to figure out if these learned beliefs, one, work for us, or two, are actually aligned to who we really are and want to be. And so when you put all that like on paper in front of you, you go, okay, so I want to be, or I believe I am this, and I'm doing this. So if these two things don't line up, we call it incongruency, but there's never going to be a flow of results or success because you're always disjointed. So it's that lack of alignment that we have to uncover. And you have to start simple. So that's why we start with things like diet and exercise, right? Yep. But then, that's only going to last for a certain period of time before identity becomes a part of that puzzle.
Big time.
You're never gonna, I forget who says this, but you're never gonna outperform your identity. So you said, if I'm big boned or I come from a family that has trouble losing weight, I'm so
you've
sorry.
Identified as for
Absolutely,
your entire life.
I'm so sorry. But until we get in there and figure out if that's a belief you desire and that aligns with your life, you're not gonna surpass it.
Yeah. So we mentioned a little earlier the 5 whys. I think that's a place where whenever we notice, or people, they can lose weight for a short amount of time or go to the gym and start training hard for a short amount of time and then they fall off. And I think it's ultimately because they haven't really found their deep why.
You kind of tick through the levels and then you get to a stuck place, right?
Yeah. So what's your experience with, and I think another thing people have to give themselves is like grace with time. Not everyone can just sit here and then dig deep, get to that 5th why, have it click, and then everything goes. And that's where someone like you and a more therapist setting comes in.
Yeah. Well, we go to the gym for our thoughts. Like, we have to understand that that's a thing. Like, we go to the gym for our body. We go to the gym for our mood. Wait a minute. Where's the gym for how to reset my thinking? Because here's the thing. We're either not taught, and even if we are taught, we live in a culture that doesn't condition the way a human works. Meaning, our brain works in patterns, and our brain and our mind are two different things. So I believe that we are a spirit identity. We have a mind, and we live in a body. So the brain is part of the body, and the brain has a practical, tangible functionality. What fires together wires together. So every time we go through a similar act, thought, behavior, if we do that on repeat, there are little electrical impulses that follow a specific pathway through the brain. Well, the more that happens, I like to picture like one of these like telephone wire cables. It gets thicker and it gets thicker and it gets bigger and more sturdy. So these are the things that become those habits, those automatic patterns I was talking about. So if we've gotten to our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even beyond that, and we're going, I want to stop doing this thing. I'm realizing this thing that I'm doing is causing me trouble or distress. Well, that's decades of wiring.
Yeah.
So that's the patience and the grace, and I think that's where the spirit and the mind collide with understanding of the physical body.
Yeah, and we can dig in with that too. I'm sure you've read or heard of Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
But so even more so, let's dig in with those bad habits, like then just in of doing them themselves, that develops, right?
Absolutely.
But then we have, let's take things like cigarettes,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
eating a lot of junk food.
Yeah.
Then these things also have drugs that also we're fighting against.
Yeah,
So you're
there's
fighting.
there's a reward.
Yeah,
with
you're
that.
fighting
that
against
habit.
your habit of, say, smoking after every time you eat, or snacking every time you get in the car to drive home,
Yes.
or when you start watching TV. So you're creating that loop. That Then you're also using something that is kind of, you mentioned how, kind of how our body and mind and the environment we were made for. But then all these things are these extra outside influences.
Yeah. Well, it's the bringing together of the multiple aspects of yourself, and meaning, you have this snacking habit in the car, or you have this cigarette. You have the practical that we just talked about with that wiring. So we have that pattern, but then you have senses, emotions, and neurochemicals. So you have dopamine coming to play, right? This makes me feel good, or it's my reset, or whatever. So it is the collision of how our body works, how it is to be a human, that creates these habits. And when we come to terms with the idea that we want to stop something, we are not taught or conditioned to bring all of those aspects to the table. We're taught, just stop it, just do it. Oh, well, if you want to stop smoking, like flush the cigarettes down the toilet and do this instead. Well, it's going to be a long process, and we have to commit to the process to get the rewards that we want.
Yeah. And if there's something that we've learned, over the years, is that telling people to do things
Oh my gosh.
does not
That's
work.
what precision nutrition really taught us was, try to
Well, it's so
you know how it
fun.
works,
Yeah.
so,
Well, and you guys know I'm certified in precision nutrition coaching as well, and I love the behavioral aspect that they bring to their certification.
That was a game changer.
When
for
did
us.
you do your certification with them?
Oh wow, 4 or 5 years ago.
So we have everyone do it. All my coaches. So I've gotten to see So someone's doing it now, and they have a new version.
Yes.
And every version that's come has
Up-leveled.
more and more shifted.
that's so great.
Towards the mindset, the change, the
Behavior.
psychology.
Well, it's just evidence that it isn't so much. Yes, there's a huge what with what we're eating, right? Like there are, and like you said, we kind of get it. We know what's good for us, and we know what's not so good for us. And it's 2021. That information is at the click of a button.
It's
You
easy.
can find out about food industry. You can find out about whatever you want. But those habits are not applicable unless you. I like to talk about self-love, acceptance, and understanding.
Yeah.
And so I was listening the other day. I think it's Carl Jung, old backstage psychology guru stuff. But there's a story about 2 drunks who come to him, and they're getting ready to start AA. And he basically says, "You'll never cure alcoholism with therapy. It's a spiritual issue." So that brings kind of what we're talking about now. It's not just one thing. You can't just think your way out of this. You have to be it. You have to do it, and you have to understand it.
Yeah, and so to bring that with exercise and food, right? A lot of times we were lucky, we were athletes when we were younger, and I've noticed this correlation big time. People who played sports and stuff when they were younger are obviously much more likely to feel comfortable or go exercise and go to the gym, whereas everyone else has built up thought processes that I'm not athletic, I'm not that exercise person, and that prevents them from ever starting.
Absolutely.
When we sit down with people here for a strategy session before, but when they're thinking about signing up, that's the number one thing is people are intimidated from I'm not an exercise person,
Well, they see these box jumps or these push-ups, and they're like, "Oh, I could never do that. I just want to lose some weight."
And then with nutrition, it's a similar thing as well.
Absolutely.
People. We start eating when we're babies, right? So you have habits from the time you're a toddler. A simple one is your parents. What do they always say when you're a kid, right? You can't leave till you finish all your food.
Sure.
So right there, we're messing up our appetite regulation.
Or you're me, and you have a lot of health problems, and you get a donut every time you're a good girl at the doctor's office.
Yep. So So now you're learning that food is a reward, right?
Absolutely.
Food is also the emotional eating. So
they're learned experiences.
Yeah. Like this makes me feel good when I feel bad.
Yeah.
That's the dopamine.
One thing I've noticed, I found interesting is how some people naturally seem like they always stay thin, right? And then some people struggle with their weight. A major correlation I've seen to where when I meet with people, I always ask them this question, Alan, because it's 100% ends up working out like this, where I've noticed people who struggle with maybe they're underweight or they never gain weight. When they're stressed, they don't eat. So that's how they're wired. That's how I am. Like when I'm stressed, you didn't eat today? How'd you forget to eat?
Sympathetic
That's the last thing I would think about. Then people maybe who struggle with their weight, when they're stressed, they eat.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's that self-understanding piece I mentioned. It's if you don't know you, and this is a whole Pandora's box, right? I love.
We like Pandora's boxes.
I love getting like in the weeds with people, but it has to be right for them, right? Like I like finding out what your genetics are and then looking at the world of epigenetics and how have those, predetermined quote unquote physical factors about you evolved over time based on your lifestyle and your experiences. And I like looking at like, you just mentioned body type and like even personality to me is
type
like
A versus
yes. And a lot of that, all of it ends up being more pattern than it is innate in us. And if we don't know these things about ourselves, we are always going to be putting ourselves up against an external standard. And that's always going to lead to either temporary or no results at all. So it's going, okay, what kind of human am I? How do I work? Am I sympathetic nervous system dominant or am I parasympathetic nervous system dominant, right? Does my body handle carbohydrates better than fats? We got to figure that stuff out because then we tweak and tailor our daily way of being to support or navigate or manage those aspects of ourselves. And then suddenly we not only are getting results, we're also feeling successful, which is a double whammy. Yeah,
and even like you talked about parasympathetic versus sympathetic. You probably like align yourself with the stress sympathetic, right? So and I've noticed working with clients that are like that when you try to get them to do like a yoga or a low intensity cardio session.
It is the last thing they want to do.
I'm being called out right now. It took me 30 years.
So were you the person that like, I can't stay still enough to meditate or
are you kidding? Okay. This is so perfect. This story, I never tell this story, but it fits so well. So in undergrad, when I'm majoring in psychology and I'm playing field hockey and we're strength training and we're running our little feet off, I'm getting a minor in religious studies because that's what you do. You add more academics on top of everything, right?
Because you can't have no downtime to have to internally reflect on anything.
Right. No, exactly. Well, that leads to the other lesson, right? Is, this professor was leading us in a meditation. I had a panic attack because I was not okay with.
You had to be alone with yourself.
That is exactly where I was headed. And that is, where we are now. I teeter that line of we're so young. Oh my gosh, how old am I? Like I'm getting so much older, right? But this is where I am now. And the work that I do with clients is if we're not able to sit alone with ourselves and we are not accepting and okay with who that person is, that's where we have to go. Like that's the real work. But yes, you're 100% right. But look at what that is. It's not just the type of person I am. Maybe I'm sympathetic driven. I'm a type A, right? That's there. But I had learned beliefs that if you were not productive, if you were not working hard, then you are a failure or you were not worthy of what the next thing was for you. So I had to either be sweating or stressing in order to feel
accomplished.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't even know when that connection clicked. And so that's the other thing is a lot of people want that aha moment, right? They want that big transformative moment in their life. And there are some of those, but I couldn't tell you right now sitting here when I came to a place of understanding that you have to slow down to speed up. Yeah. I know that. I know it with every ounce of my being. I practice it daily now, but I don't know when it was. It was over a period of time and, through a process of getting to know, love, accept, and understand myself.
And that's how most things happen, whether weight loss or...
Yeah, you look back and you go,
you don't really have an aha moment for the most part. And some people do. Some people just have a moment that clicks with nutrition. They're like, oh... I completely get it now, and they do, but most of us just kind of slide slowly into something, and then one day you're like, when did this happen? Like, when did I become this person?
Yes.
So that's interesting.
Well, and the hindsight of that is what we wish we could have everybody know, right? But you don't know until you get to the other side. So you have to have trust and faith on the front side to go, okay, I'm going to trust the process.
Which is hard, and I think that's stressful for some people to trust a process, not knowing not knowing what the outcomes be, or just being afraid of failure. Like, what if I try
Yes.
this and it doesn't work?
Yes. Well, that's where we bring everything together and we go, wait a minute, where did that fear of failure come from? That's a learned belief. That's a function of my environment, my influences, and my associations growing up. That's a deeply rooted pattern.
Yeah. And as we sit here and like talk through it, break each other down, like I want people to realize that, and this is too how everyone it takes time and trust and relationships, right?
Yes.
And a lot of times, because we have known each other a while, like there's some trust, right?
Sure.
So we can talk about it. It takes you a while to get there with someone, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, and also observing that, well, what do we all want? We want to be wanted, and we don't want to be left alone, right? So we want to know that that's what trust is, and I like to talk about self-trust. When we're abandoning our own desires through our negative habits all day long, we're never going to give that person what they want, that person being us, because we can't trust each other. Yeah. So I like to say we all have multiple personalities, and I like to break down like the way I deal with things, but the therapy world, you learn those multiple personalities. You find out what, like, little girl you who's still stuck in the needing donuts after a doctor's office versus the current you who
needs
understands.
wine after the doctor's office.
Sure, whatever it is, it's like, oh, that's where that's coming from, right? But we can understand that. But then there's the coaching, which is really just like, wait a minute, what is that doing for you? I understand that it's so ingrained in you, but is it working for you now? And that question often is enough to start that awareness process of going, you know what, you're right, like, I don't need that anymore. Yeah.
And change, pointing things out too is very uncomfortable for people. So then people can get offended, or, they have to reflect on, it's normally their own issues, right? So that comes back to like how strong is your relationship, right? So like we have clients who will take a year or two before any outcome, say quote unquote progress, but the reality is I've done this enough to know like you're still here showing up, and
that's progress.
You're trusting us more.
That's success.
You're getting deeper. This is progress. Like
absolutely,
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the fitness world is super not long term, right? We want quick results. We had a client the other day who's working on nutrition, and they're like, I think I need a 6-week challenge, and we do a 6-week challenge in January when everyone's motivated. And most people, it lasts 4 days and they fall off. And it's like, so in their mind, they think they need the 6-week challenge, but it's like, we just did one and it didn't work, right? Like, it didn't work how you think it's going to. So most people think they need that aha motivation. But
they don't realize that every single day is the challenge. And if we start looking at it that way, we're going to get both the positive reinforcement and all of the other pieces that come to showing up the next day and the next day. I hear the same thing, whether it's through coaching or therapy, where it's like, I just need something. What's another book I can read, or what's a program, or right? But the same thing with the nutrition and the fitness. It's like, what's another program that I can try, or what's a new supplement that I can try, or those. It's not a thing that's going to work for you. It's you.
And then the magic of coaching isn't the thing we're giving you. It's the accountability and support.
It's the outcome of the relationship.
And helping them like bring awareness to things or come to conclusions on their own.
I think back to how much stuff's changed over the last 15 years. Before, when I was a trainer at the gym and there was really no like internet like there is now, you had to go to the library or an expert, right? And if I said, this is your nutrition plan.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's 1 scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
They went and tried to do it, right? But
they were on their
now
own.
it's like, here's your nutrition plan from your coach that you hired and you're paying money. And it's like, they'll come back to you with their research and 5 other options.
But I'm going to do this Whole30 recipe.
Yeah.
I know you gave me this, but.
So then you spend time, trying to convince them why, even though you thought you've already convinced them.
Well, and I think the hard part of that is it's not my agenda.
Yeah.
Right?
No, my agenda is you succeeding.
It's, you told me this is what you wanted. Let's do you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I told you how to do you.
Yeah.
Right.
But then now people gather information, which feels productive. But then the reality is it's not. And most people now they never get started because they are caught in that trap.
Well, I love the analogy of the sponge in that scenario, right? You think of a sponge like your classic dish sponge. If you're constantly just taking in external substance, what happens to the sponge? It's disgusting. It is stagnant. It rots. It's gross, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to wring that sponge out every now and then. But the other way I like to look at that is becoming a filter instead of a sponge, right? Yeah. I'm going to bring information through me, but I'm going to keep what works. How am I going to know what works? Because I got to do something with that information. So, Schoolhouse Rock, knowledge is power, right? Applied knowledge is freedom.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed, because when you said books, it just kind of set me off. Because, I love to read. I know Gary loves to read. However, the number of self-help books that I think people blow through, looking for an answer, but never really taking any action is a little bit frustrating, I guess, because they never do anything with it. They keep collecting all this stuff, which honestly, most self-help books are basically the same thing, recycled over and over in a different way.
It's all spiritual principle. When there's nothing new
exactly.
under the sun.
It's just maybe regurgitated a different way, or there's more stories to it, or something
and that
more
person
personal.
wrote that book because this was their process.
Exactly.
And maybe I use the terminology aspiration without attachment. We can aspire to things that are attractive to us, or things that look good, or things that resonate with us. Maybe there is some relativity here, but it's going to look a little different in your life. So why not experiment instead of expect?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
so
information gathering's tough.
Let's dig in on that a little. It's going to look, a little different in your life. So that's what I think people overlook is, say, well, what's your eating plan? What's your exercise plan? But if you have 4 kids and work full time and unsupportive spouse, those are all obstacles and roadblocks you have to deal with that maybe the person you admire has different ones and doesn't have those ones, right? So it's going to look different.
Absolutely.
And then you just run yourself into the ground thinking, I'm trying to do what they do and it's not working. And so this is where the negative self-thoughts come in. Well, I'm a failure.
Yes.
I can't do this. Something's wrong with me.
Yes. Yeah. So we've come back to that idea of who am I identifying as? And how is that impacting who I'm being? Because who you're being is always going to dictate your results, right? Who you're being is your habits. So it's not always, I know we want to start with our habits, and I get it, and it's going to be fruitful to a degree. But if you haven't, or you don't continually do the identity work, it's going to be temporary. It is. Yeah. We always have to come back to that. And you use the word self-talk 100%. What am I saying to myself? And when we think about, we were talking about with those neural pathways and how influential your thoughts are on your feelings and then your actions, we have to recognize, I think the latest research says something like over 6,000 thoughts run through our minds a day. Well, only a tiny percentage of those are thoughts you're thinking. The rest of them are like subconscious and unconscious and constant on loop. And I think the other research says that it's something like 80% of those thoughts are negative in nature because we have what's called a negativity bias. We have a human need to survive. And thank God, 2021 for most of us is not about like not getting killed.
Yeah.
You know, for most of us. And I say that with relation to like tribal and ancestral groups of people who are always on the lookout for the next saber-toothed tiger. We don't have to think like that. Well, our survival is more about acceptance in social circles. Our survival is about, am I good enough? Or, you know, whether that's a PTA mom group or the Coastal Fitness gym group or, you know, your church group. It doesn't matter. Like, I want to be accepted and loved. And if I feel that that's threatened, then that's a survival mechanism. So I have to constantly be on guard, constantly be defending myself. And I'm putting energy into that without knowing it. I'm not going to be putting energy into creating and identifying as the human I'm supposed to become.
Yeah. So where do you like to start with people on that kind of like self-work?
So I wish I could say there was one place to start. It depends.
That's usually our answer. It depends.
Right? It really is the answer. But it depends on what level I'm working with someone on. If someone comes to me and is like all in, I want to transform my life, and I'm in a one-on-one coaching or therapy relationship.
Back from a Tony Robbins seminar.
Yes. It's okay. We're gonna get down and dirty from the get-go, and I do probably like what I consider to be a pretty eye-opening assessment, where I have people give a rating, if you will, of there's like 12 to 15 areas of our life. And there's probably more than that, but that's what I use. And they have to be 100% honest, and they have to give the level of satisfaction that they have with that area of their life today. And no ifs, ands, or buts, no justifications, rationalizations, nothing. So we get that number, and then we identify what a 10 would look like in that area of their life. And we get to see the incongruency, and that gives us a baseline for digging into what we've been talking about. How are you identifying in that area? What are the thoughts? What are the learned behaviors? What's your first experience in that area of your life that, you know, influenced how you think about it? What are the things you think about other people in that realm, you know? So, but if I'm working on someone on a I would say not more surface level, but a different level. Say somebody comes to me just for diet and exercise. You know, we look at habits, we look at daily outcomes, we look at, okay, what's the goal? And I think one of the hardest things for me is getting people to set a daily goal instead of like a 3-month goal or a 30-day goal. So awareness is the place to start.
100%. That's where we've landed too. Like, absolutely, you know, that's why we get people to track calories. And it's not something we want people to have to do forever, but you got to have some clue what you're eating, or you're going to have no idea where to start.
You cannot, what do they say? You cannot monitor what you don't measure.
Yeah.
That's Gary. Gary's saying, man.
Those cliches.
Somebody said it because it was true.
T-shirts that I wear at home.
Yes. No, absolutely. I am a big proponent. I track periodically because here's the other part about this. There's no end of the game.
No.
There's no finish line. You know, it doesn't matter how quote unquote evolved or optimized you are. You're a human, and you are always subject to be at the mercy of your functionality. Yeah. So several times a year, you got to come back to the drawing board and go, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Too.
Mm-hmm.
If I take your test, I'm confident that I'm an A+ dog dad.
Same.
But
absolutely.
Homeowner.
I
mean, but you know that about yourself.
Like a D, man. I got leaves I still got to pick up.
Oh, it's priorities.
I got mulch I got to do.
Yeah, but you know what, man?
But your dog gets walked.
That house can't.
My dog gets walked. He gets fed. He gets his collagen peptides.
Oh.
You know, he gets.
Dude, I get. You're talking to the same guy.
Oh my god.
Well, so that's good. Let me ask this.
Uh-oh.
So with that, is like the goal for everyone to be a 10 in every category, or is it to know there's a give and take, right?
Absolutely. Well, the funny thing is most of the categories are closer to 10 and aren't even that important to you.
Yeah.
They're easier. You know, somebody who might, this is going to hurt somebody, I'm sure, but if somebody rates their relationship a 3, but they rate their fitness a 10 or a 9. You don't need to show up over here that much. You don't have to pay attention to it. You got that.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been hiding from this area over here because it's painful to me. Yeah. And that's that identity, you know. Yeah. So, and no, the answer is not to be a 10 in all areas. The answer is to go back to when I am by myself, am I okay with who I am?
Yeah. Whether
it's in that area or anywhere else, you know?
So then if we go back to how most of us came up, right, with school, you see where almost like how we're treated as young kids in a way can set us up for a lot of these issues, right? Because as you just said, like we know dealing with this, like the goal is almost for people not to try to be perfect, right? But then when we're coming up, it's like you need straight A's, you got to be the best
there's
athlete.
These external markers that are set, and sure, maybe you're told it's okay if you don't reach that, but that completely goes against what we're being shown. So again, there's incongruence in the system to begin with. Yeah.
Luckily, I was always, and it's why I think I ended up liking business and do well at it. Is when I was younger, I would do really well in school and stuff that I enjoyed, and stuff I didn't like, I'll just get a C.
Sure.
You know, and everything else I'd get an A.
Yeah.
And then when I got into fitness, I really I learn and pour myself into it, like unbalanced for sure. But then you learn it and do good at it. So, but then at the same time, you don't want a bunch of ones either, right? So, it's kind of like that soundboard, you know, you gotta find the balance with everything. Knowing there's no perfection, but there's also you can't turn a blind eye to everything either.
No, and you can't pretend like an area of your life doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
When it does. You can't lie to yourself.
And a good point too is, and this is where it comes down to, everyone's different, right? You have to know what's going on, right? If you follow some CrossFit athlete and they train a certain way, well, they're getting paid. That's their job to exercise. So now you can't copy what they do, because now all of a sudden your actual job that pays you may suffer, right? Your family, your relationships, because you want to be in the gym 7 days a week, 4 hours a day.
So much. You're speaking to somebody who thought she was a semi-pro marathoner for a while.
Yeah.
Numbers don't tell that story, but that was the mentality. And God bless my husband. You talk about supportive spouses. Like, I'm that girl with the supportive spouse. He just looked at me and goes, if you were getting paid for this, I would let you run with that. But you're not. You know what I mean? Like, I have to remind you that this isn't your income. This isn't your well-being. This is something that you love to do. If you don't love to do it anymore, why are you doing it? Right.
Yes. And that's what's tough about the fitness world, like running and, CrossFit and powerlifting, is these things all of us can go do. Like, there's no, like, you can step in a gym, you can step outside. But if your husband started going to play tackle football with his friends all the time, you'd be like, you're not going pro. You're not going to get, why are you smashing your, right? So these things, you look at it as crazy, but luckily there's a barrier to entry, right? Like, you need equipment, you need other people that want to do it with you. Whereas the fitness world, everything's very accessible, and now you can log on to Instagram and follow these professionals.
Absolutely. You don't even have to pay for subscription anymore.
Yeah. And you're like, I'm them.
Yes.
Or
I got this, or I create my own workouts, or, absolutely.
And then you fall down that slippery slope, you know. And then, if anything, it might make you have an unhealthy relationship with exercise, because you may never quite live up to where you want to get, and you see what other people are doing, and then you feel defeated, and now you don't look forward to your workouts.
So again, it comes back to being honest with yourself, right? Like, why am I doing
that
this?
That assessment, right? That assessment and that awareness.
Yes. And who am I being, and how is that lining up with who I want to be, right?
So I think one thing, so it's like, sounds awful, right? But I know something that's worked for me, because, again, I was very competitive, loved sports, but eventually I was like, man, like the time, it's not going to work out, and I don't want to fall down this rabbit hole. So I started shifting my goals to long term, right? So now it's like, well, these are the things I can kind of do now, training 3-4 days a week. If I can maintain the physical things I do now at 36 and be doing them when I'm 66, that actually is super elite, right?
Sure.
Now, that goal is very long term, and the crazy thing about that goal is it really just means you need to maintain for 30 years. So you tell someone, ooh, the goal of maintaining, they look at you sideways, right? But the reality is, we meet with people all the time. Actually, most of the people we meet with have lost weight at some point, have gotten in a great shape. The problem is they can't maintain it.
Yes. Well, going back to, we live in a world where everything is stimulating and influential all the time. So you can use the dirty word comparison, but all comparison means is that I'm looking out there for what's right for me, when the only way I can know what's right for me is by going in here. And we don't have a society that conditions that. So we have to build the mental muscle to be able to sustain that practice ourselves, no matter what's going on outside of us.
Which is
hard. It's so hard. There's, when you look at the brain science and the understanding of human behavior, changing habits, it's too hard, or it's but it's not. It's just awkward. It's just swimming upstream.
It's uncomfortable.
It's and discomfort. They talk about another cliche. Discomfort. And no one grows inside their comfort zone. Is that what it is?
Like
Is that what your T-shirt says?
The worst one, you put the fish in the fish bowl. He's only going to get so big.
Yes.
You put him in a bigger fish bowl.
He's going to turn into a shark.
Right. But so you look at that, and when you understand that discomfort doesn't mean run the other way.
Yeah.
It means take a deep breath and be okay where you are.
Yes.
That was my personal experience with that is 3 years ago now, I finally got a PR in qualifying for the Boston Marathon. Mm-hmm. And the way I did that went 100% against the nature of how I've built myself. My personality, quote unquote, pattern of way of being was to go as hard as I could all the time, because if I didn't go hard enough, then I wasn't going to reach my potential and I wasn't going to be doing enough. Yeah. I crashed into a great coach. Local, anybody who needs a great marathon coach who's not me, I'll send you his way. But he made me access my aerobic threshold heart rate and made me, I'm paying him for it, right? I chose to, but made me run slow. Yeah. And I ran slow and I crushed my goal. And it was like, oh.
Mm-hmm. I think going off what you said of,
but that's hard to do. I mean, you got to give yourself credit because it's easy to hire a coach and not do it,
It's easy to hire a coach and not do it, but it's also easier to say, I don't need a coach.
Yeah.
Because I know what I need to know.
And most people will, if I'm not doing 7 days a week, I'm not doing enough. Or I'm leaving results on the table if they don't do that. Mm-hmm. But, we have some people, here that run and kind of do it what I would say the right way is what's the least amount of work I can do to perform the best. Yeah, to perform the best. Yeah. And that's really where we should be. I mean, we do that with working out.
Smarter, not harder.
We train 3 or 4 days a week and that's it.
Yeah.
Would we get, more results if we train 6 days? Probably not. I'm going to burn out. I'm going to feel terrible.
Or if you did, they're super diminishing.
Yeah, they're diminishing. So we're 3 days a week and I can get almost the exact same results as maybe 5 days.
Well, isn't that what people want? I want to establish a way of being that supports me feeling amazing every day. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Let's not, hit the peak and then dive bomb.
Yeah. I think it's hard because a lot of people feel like they have to hit the peak.
Well,
to get results.
We're talking about how thoughts influence how our lives look, right? Well, there are arguably 12 irrational thoughts that were predetermined by some guru, but Albert Ellis. But one of those is
Albert.
You gotta be smart for an Albert.
Your parents are like, I want this kid to be a guru.
Well, he's the father of a lot of cognitive behavioral theory, so he lived up to his potential.
What were my parents thinking with
Gary?
Gary, man.
Garage
Gary Busey and Gary Coleman and me.
That's it.
Okay, guys.
There's no gurus.
Nah, there's not.
So, reeling it back in.
Oh, Albert.
But, irrational thinking is what he's really well known for coming up with. There are ways of irrational thinking, lining up with that negativity bias. Irrational thinking serves us. It keeps us right where we are. It keeps us in our comfort zone. One of those ways of thinking is all or nothing.
Yeah.
If it's not this, it has to be this. If I'm not this, then I must be that. But it's not. It's a continuum. You got to slide along that scale.
Sliding scale.
Yes.
Lights, be a dial, not a light switch.
I like it.
Yeah, that's what we always go with.
I like it.
So, as we've talked about, it's stuff that's helped us. The other thing that kind of wraps around all the actual, what to eat and how to exercise. We talked about thoughts.
Yeah.
The other big one is environment, right? So, you mentioned, you have a supportive husband, right?
Sure.
And we're also lucky we're in the fitness industry, so we have colleagues and other people that live the lifestyle that make it easier. A lot of people don't realize how much their environment hurts them.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to then they're hard on themselves. Like, I'm a failure, right? But if you're trying to eat less so you can lose weight, and every instance you meet with your friends 4 times a week involves food and drinks. I mean, it's
Well, again, you ask yourself that question of how is this working for me? Right? And if it is not working for me, I get to choose. And that's the thing a lot of us forget, is that we always have the power of a choice. Yes. I get to choose. Do I want to keep meeting them for happy hour, or do I want to ask who wants to meet me for coffee another day in the morning before my workout or after my workout. And those of you who come with me, thank you. And those of you who don't, I'll check on you later.
Yeah.
It's not all or nothing. It doesn't mean you cannot have these friends. It means you need to adjust your lifestyle to support what you desire.
So how would you address if there's like a general thing? Because this is a very common one. Unsupportive spouses.
Oh my
Because they're not like friends where you can just get new friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
well, I mean, you could. So let's
it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
but let's assume we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
how do you have someone handle that? Like that's
well, it's okay. The baseline answer, and then I think this looks different for everybody, is one that we don't like. They aren't the problem. You're the problem. Right? Like the way I am thinking about what they are or are not doing and why that's a problem for me is the reason I'm having a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
So come back home and go, well, if I don't like walking in and seeing him eating Cheetos on the couch every night when I am supposed to go down to the basement to do my workout, where are my choices? I can either nag him, yell at him, internalize it, complain to a girlfriend about it, try and stop buying Cheetos so he gets mad at me, or I can go in a different door, reroute, and get my workout in before I even have to confront that issue. Now, that's a super specific hypothetical.
Yeah.
But the relationship issues cannot be solved until each person owns themselves and does exactly what we're talking about here today. And I do delve into that. I'm really careful with how I set up coaching versus therapy. You know, when somebody comes to therapy, they're coming for a specific reason. And then if someone comes to coaching, like I mentioned, I work with people on different levels. We need to be upfront about what we're touching and what we're not touching, because some of us are very possessive over the things we don't want touched.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. Like, this is where you are. We have to be where you are, use what you have, and start right here. So if relationship is something that we want to talk about, we can't talk about that relationship. We have to talk about you in that relationship. For years, we've heard the terms, marriage is 50-50, relationships are 50-50. No, they're not. It's 100-100. And sometimes it's 80-120. Sometimes it's, 50-150.
Yeah.
That's what a relationship is. And the coolest thing ever that I love using is the couch theory, which is, picture your classic American couch with 3 cushions. The middle cushion is the relationship. The outside cushions are the you and the them. At no point in time should either of those outside cushions be on each other. Mm-hmm. We should always meet in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't like something they're doing, how committed to my own goals am I?
Yeah.
Like how am I taking ownership and agency over my own life to create the outcomes that I want? Because a relationship is dynamics. So if my dynamic changes in an authentic, organic, and a way of integrity, it's going to shift the dynamic of the relationship. Mm-hmm. So I have to have trust and faith and show up every day no matter what to see if those results occur or not.
Yeah, we had a client who told me the other week she's been doing her thing and losing weight and she's been tracking and weighing her food, and her significant other, like, he didn't say anything. She used to complain that about he would not be very helpful, but she mentioned how he's started weighing his food and stuff,
Well,
and action, I think, is
yes. And you have to give people the integrity of their own process.
Yeah.
If you are dissatisfied with their level of health, it's not your problem. You can care for them. You can have concern for them. You can even transparently share that with them. But you can't blame, attack, or request that they do things that you want to do.
Yeah.
I had the same experience, coming up early years of my marriage. I just did my thing. Mm-hmm. And there was a little nagging here and there. I made Jacob do P90X with me, and he hated every second of it. But
Tony Horton.
He to this day will not work out with me. But after a while, I realized we're making each other miserable because I'm pushing the issue. So I let go and I dove into doing my own thing. And that's really when I got hard and heavy with running and doing what I loved. And it's pretty cool right now how in tune he is with some of the things that I had wanted a long time ago.
And it's, people come to their, come through their process at a way different pace. And that's something we need to be reminded of too, remembering how much we've been through in terms of, nutrition and all of the training styles we've kind of migrated through. and realizing that took us like 12 years.
Yeah.
And these people have been here for 2 months and we're
Yes.
expecting them to get it.
Yes.
Whereas like they kind of need to go through it.
Yeah.
And we got to be okay with people making their own mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and whether we tell them to do something or not.
Yeah.
If I say don't do that, well, sometimes they're still going to do it.
Well, and we have to let people fail. We had to
Yes.
fail to get where we are.
Exactly.
And failure is just information.
yeah.
So
it's data.
yes, and I run into that all the time where somebody has a bad coaching session in their qualification, not in mine, or somebody has a bad therapy session in their qualification, and they're like, "Why is it like this? Why isn't it working?" And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, do you know how good this is? Do you know what this means?
Yeah.
This means like this is such a good thing." Like
Yeah.
I finally come to a place where it's like, man, if I made people cry all day, I guess I'm doing my job. Doesn't always feel good, but
I know.
it's like, okay, this is evidence that we're pushing the
Yeah.
envelope here. We're taking risks. We're getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, I love when clients are complaining to you because you know they're actually doing.
Yes.
So if no one's saying anything, they're not complaining about being hungry or cooking sucks or this or that. They're probably
They're
not
not
trying,
trying.
right?
The run coaching clients that I've had, we have a saying. It's this is mile 18. When we get to mile 18, it's okay. This is when you either pull out of the marathon or you get completely miserable that you're even doing this, or you go, okay, this is why I'm here, and you keep showing up. And so that's the metaphor we go back to when they're like, oh my gosh, I just don't understand. This is mile 18.
Yeah.
Let's just keep showing up. 21s.
That's what I say when I'm driving to Outer Banks.
This is mile 18.
I get to mile 18, I'm like, man, I hate these long drives.
Almost there.
Because running 18 miles is,
That's a whole.
yeah, that's my, well, I was a sprinter, so
Yeah.
that's my 400 meters.
Yeah. I like it.
That's my cap.
Well, yeah, I'll
Just
do
do
a
it over and
400.
over and over and
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
God.
But
Cool.
no, it's there's a lot that goes into it.
Uh-huh.
So I think people, a takeaway is really, I think the best takeaway is give yourself time.
And grace, man. Be be nice to yourself.
That's what I would say. Like the bottom, like if we were to like keep doing the digging and find the bottom of the spiral, it really is like, do you love yourself enough to do what it is you say you want? That's what time is. I recently have become absolutely obsessed with, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dr. Edith Eger. She's a Holocaust survivor, 93-year-old psychologist. I can't even. Like, my life would be
You're
complete
obsessed?
if I met her right now. But she says it like this. She says, love is a 4-letter word, spelled Time. And you can't just give that to other people, and some of us don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
are we doing that for ourselves?
Yep. It's beautiful.
Damn.
Now I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to say anything.
Just end.
So, yeah. Well, we're glad. I don't even know how long it's been.
It's been like
What
3
we at?
hours.
3 hours.
I think
So-
there's, so many different directions and so many. We're in the business of people,
Yes.
which is a never-ending,
Yeah.
all-inclusive, and ever-expansive
Yeah.
work.
That evolves, like we said, with the times, right? Like we see
Yeah.
the problems. The hard part now is different from 15 years ago because of technology and information, and it's going to be different 15 years from now. I think with the younger generation whose communication is completely different, I think that it's going to be
That's going to be
the
different.
communication is going to be way different in
Yeah.
10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed it. I know we did, and then maybe even that was super broad, and then people will really hear some things that resonate with them, and maybe we can have you back for specific things
To
that
expand a
that
little
people
more.
want to
That'd
dive
be
in
cool.
on. So
I would love that.
That's
Thank you guys so much for having me.
definitely. So if someone is interested in working with you, or tell everyone the best kind of what you offer and how to reach you and all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I had mentioned that I work with people on several levels, right? So I'll start top down. It's that all in, and I only work with a couple of one-on-one clients is what I call that service at a time, because it's so intensive, and I like to tell those people they get me in their back pocket. So I'm kind of all access all the time to those people. But then I come down from there and I offer more specific niched coaching for any particular area of their life that they need that coaching in. That is a part of my base level service, which is a group coaching program
Got it.
where we do fitness, nutrition, and mindset coaching. It's very general. It's very informative. It's education, accountability, and support. And it's super low cost, entry level. You can take it or leave it, but it's all about giving information so that people can have access to tools and resources. And then from there, say somebody wants to lose a particular amount of weight, or somebody wants to run a marathon, or somebody is really just having that same mindset issue over and over again after they've gone through. Maybe one of the people is a member of the gym here, and they keep having that same yo-yo, or they keep coming to you guys going, I don't know why I keep doing this, that self-sabotage. That would be the perfect scenario for that level of coaching. So it's really my mid-level of coaching. But no, people can find all that information on my website. It's awardinglife.com. And I'm happy to receive emails and chat through things to see what works best for where we are.
That worked out well. I feel like you used your husband a little bit for that, because your name is Amanda with an no. In his your Ward, right? Amanda Ward. And then
that was a yellow. Yeah, that was a yellow legal pad moment in the wee hours of the evening.
Were you just like, oh my gosh?
Well, he is a big part of. Yes, that name was a combined effort, and I would not be doing what I am doing without his push, because it was like I needed permission to go. I'm allowed to do what I want with my life. Yes, you are.
And I know too. For me, when you do what we do, and kind of, you're an entrepreneur and doing your thing, there's a lot of uncertainty, and to have the stability from your significant other, it gives you a lot of chance.
It is huge. And I think the thing that people need to hear is it's not a requirement, but it is definitely a supplement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. So, you can reach out to Amanda that way. As you know, us, Coastal Strength and Fitness, the gym in Newport News. You can find us, our Instagrams and stuff too. What's your Instagram? Is it
at Awarding Life? Yeah.
So she's on there too.
Yeah.
You got it handled.
You can find me that way wherever you are.
Yep.
And I'm gonna have to come jump in on a group workout sometime.
Yeah. Any day. Yeah. Come on through, please.
6 days a week. 7th day is cleaning day.
Yeah.
Ben's here. Ben does some movement therapy stuff. So.
Oh, nice.
Well, yeah. Awesome. Well, everyone, we'll be back next week.
Yep.
We got actually Joe. We're going to be with a client, Joe, one of these days.
I swear.
Stuff keeps happening, but he's a runner, and you'll like his episode. So he talks about finding Coastal and getting into the strength stuff.
Oh,
and now he's, how old is Joe? Like mid-50s.
I think mid-50s.
Yeah, and he's in better shape he's ever been.
Oh,
he got super ripped and no pain, and now he runs more than ever. And he started doing like ultras and
stuff. That's the place to be.
But he's definitely. He's found balance very, very well, and is very in tune with himself, I feel.
So,
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. He's an interesting dude.
All right, so stay tuned, everyone. Have a great week.
See you next time. As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.